Hello, this is Daryl, and you're listening to the Total Soccer Show. Thank you for downloading. Thank you for streaming. I'm introing today's show, but I'm not on it. It's Taylor Rockwell talking to Jason Davis here at the convention in Chicago. If you're looking for part 3 of our Premier League midterm report, it's coming. It's just not this episode. We promised part 3 of our Premier League midterm report in the future. We've also, one of the reasons we've not been able to do it is we've been busy talking to a lot of guests here at the convention, lots of really interesting soccer people, some who are pretty famous and you've heard of, some who you may not have heard of, but they're doing really interesting things in soccer. We're going to be publishing those interviews over the next week or so. The first one we're going to publish is Taylor Rockwell's interview with Jason Davis of SiriusXM. But if you've listened to the Total Soccer Show for a while, you'll know that we're friendly with Jason. So this is a really good conversation about what it's like to do what we've all been doing for a good few years now, talking about working in what I'm going to call the soccer audio industry. Jason's done some podcasting. Now he's on that satellite radio thing. All right, so without further ado, here is Taylor's interview with Jason Davis.
Oh, yeah. We're never leaving.
You live here now.
We do.
You live in Chicago. You live in this convention center attached to that hotel. You will never go outside.
That is correct. This is my plan. This is my plan. All right. I think we're good to go. I'm going to cross my leg. You know, fancy.
If the world does end, being in a convention center at the time of it ending would not be a bad thing.
All right. We're going to talk about this right now.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Right.
The zombies attack. You want to? If Bird Box actually happens, have you seen Bird Box?
I have seen Bird Box.
Okay. What's your opinion on Bird Box?
I was not a big fan. Yourself?
Yeah, not a
By the
big
way,
fan
this
either.
is Jason Davis talking. This is Taylor Rockwell talking. Daryl Grove is not with us today, but this is how we're going to begin this episode because I want to talk about Bird Box with you.
When you asked me to do this, I was like, okay, yeah, I got no problem getting up. And we were just discussing how we made good decisions. Well, you made a good decision because you're not feeling completely 100%.
Correct. Yes.
I made a good decision because in the past I've been known to make bad decisions. And I was aware that Daryl chose to continue his evening.
He did.
And I thought to myself, I'm going to be talking to Taylor tomorrow. I'm not going to be talking to Daryl.
We'll see. He may stop by before our conversation is over. He was up. He was up when I left.
Okay.
He seemed in good spirits. He is better at functioning on less sleep than I am. I tend to get a little
I'm at a point now in my life
colder.
where I wonder if it's the alcohol or the lack of sleep that's a bigger problem the next morning.
And how did this factor into Bird Box, by the way?
We were just talking about if the end of the world happened, a convention center would be a good place to sort of have your base.
Why? How do you figure?
Provided
I want to hear your end of the world thoughts.
Provided you could secure all of the entryways. There are many entryways into this particular. I just feel like lots of people could fit here.
Yeah.
And if you can't go outside...
So you're thinking of like the community. You're thinking of bringing in lots of people.
I'm not talking about one person.
Okay.
This isn't legend. I've never seen that.
What a savior. Look at Jason Davis.
I'm not a savior.
A man of the people.
Okay, if the world did... Like, if something really bad happened and you couldn't be outdoors or you needed to find shelter, I feel like people would gravitate towards a convention center.
I think that makes sense, except if you're in a city where you don't have a convention center, you might avoid the giant building that looks scary.
There's also this factor. I think people are probably, unless you work in one... not super aware of convention centers in their own cities.
What do you mean?
Meaning, like, I know DC has one. I don't know how if I knew how to get there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm with you, and I definitely don't know how to get to DC's
but
either.
I've been to Baltimore's, and
Okay.
I've been to Chicago's now, or this one, and I've been to one in LA. But I couldn't tell you where DC's is.
All right, so your plan for the apocalypse is to find Baltimore's convention center?
Sure. Let's just go with that. Yeah, why not?
We should probably talk soccer, but first, I did want to ask you one more personal question.
Yeah.
Recently married, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How has that been so far?
Well, I've been married for all of, it'll be 3 weeks tomorrow.
But so far, a smooth 3 weeks?
Yeah, a good 3 weeks. I mean, it's a good 3 weeks.
Yeah?
It's one of those things where, and I don't know how this was for you and your wife, but we spent a week after the wedding as sort of not a honeymoon in the sense of spending a lot of money and doing something exciting, but we stayed where we got married. We got an Airbnb, and it was going to be us for a week. And it kind of was. I mean, her family is in the area, so there was some sprinkling of... It was also Christmas time, like we made that decision, so you can't, stay away from family on Christmas. You kind of have to go see them, but then we went back to the Airbnb. But that's not real life,
Not so much.
So real life doesn't kick in until you get back home, and you get like back into your normal routine. Except now that you're married, right? And that's more of a psychological thing than an actual real change in your life. Nothing. If you're living with somebody already before you get married, what changes when you put the ring on and have the ceremony? Really, what changes?
Not much. Aside from you have
much.
to go through a gauntlet of like her aunts and uncles talking about last day of freedom and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I got some of that. I rolled my eyes so hard.
Yeah, and it's like we've been together for like 6 years at this point. I'm pretty sure like we're good on that one. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, feeling married is something that you get to decide. Like, how married do you want to feel? I already love her. I'm already with her.
Yeah.
I never intended for our relationship to end anyway, even if we didn't make it official. So what's the difference?
I hope these were your vows.
No. My vows were, you're the most amazing person I've ever met in my entire life, and I couldn't live without you, and stuff like that. Which is true.
I just want the listeners to know that Jason said that while looking me in the eyes, so I'm also just going to believe that you were picturing me when you said that at the time. But don't tell her. Is she a soccer fan?
She is not a soccer fan.
Does she ever watch with you, or does she...
She will occasionally sit down, and if I'm watching something, and it's one of those things, and this reminds me, I've spent a lot of time over the course of my career talking about how, especially for the popularity of the game in the United States, atmosphere and stage and how big something feels, especially on television, is crucial. You can't... If there's 3,000 people in the stands, it could be the most important game in the history of the world. People aren't going to care. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's not important. That game's not going to feel important, even if it's for a trophy, right? So she'll get wrapped up in that kind of thing. I remember specifically watching an Atlanta United game. They were playing at home. Yeah. And, you and I can pick apart, that's turf, and it's not the best surface. And maybe they were playing the Rapids or something, and that's not the best soccer. But for her, it was exciting to watch because there were 60,000, 70,000 people there. It felt important, right? Even if she doesn't know anything about soccer, it felt important to her, and she got wrapped up in it. And, of course, Atlanta plays fun soccer, so she got wrapped up in them scoring goals.
So is she an Atlanta fan now, or is she just sort of like, if they're on, maybe she'll watch it more so than she would another team?
I don't think she's anywhere near fandom of any kind. And the only fandom maybe I could convince her to have is for the Puerto Rican national team.
Okay.
And they're terrible, so, it's more like a removed, I love my country kind of thing, but not an actual soccer fandom.
And your wife is Puerto Rican. Have you made many jokes?
She just likes the Puerto Rican national team for no reason.
That's just your thing? Make sure that she makes plenty of jokes at Alexis Guerrero's expense about how he's also from Puerto Rico, because that doesn't drive him crazy at all.
Why is that, by the way?
I don't know. I just know that he hates it when people think he's like of Puerto Rican descent, not of Cuban descent, as
just
you would say.
Because Puerto Ricans there are so many of them in New York, and it's a natural assumption people make.
That's probably it.
And he's proud to be Cuban.
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like he's just jealous of the parade, if I were guessing.
Probably.
No,
pretty wild.
When you're watching soccer, like, how do you watch soccer? Are you watching for the spectacle of things? Hello.
It depends. I would say that, there are... Am I working or am I not working?
What do you mean? Oh, yeah, so if you are watching a game, I guess that's my question. It's like, are you always working? Like, are you watching a game thinking, like, I might want to talk about this?
Well, okay, so this is we'll just cross over to the personal life, right? So it's, I'm going to watch this game. Oh, yeah, is that for work? Yeah, kind of, maybe, but I'm not writing about that game, or I'm not doing ratings for this game, because I'll do, so one of my many cobbled together freelance things is ratings for ESPN for national team games, U.S. men's national team games. I don't like doing it. It's not fun. But I do it because... somebody has to, and, it's a job, right?
Yeah.
So, and like, I like watching the game for that purpose sometimes, because it's a different watch than sort of just watching for fun.
Yeah.
And watching as a fan. So like an MLS game, a random MLS, say it's a game between two good teams, and I just want to watch it. I don't know. It's not. It's work, but it's not. And I'm watching for the atmosphere. I'm watching for the energy of it. I'm watching certainly for the quality of the soccer. But I'm just watching.
Let me ask you this then: like, is it tough to like switch off the work soccer brain? Because for me, like, I'll have moments where like my wife and I will be at dinner, or we'll be watching a movie or something, and I'll be like, she'll be like, "Who are you texting?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just like responding to a tweet, or I'm checking Twitter, or I'm doing this, or I'm responding to a text." And it feels like, because maybe we don't have those like 9 to 5 set jobs,
100%.
It feels very hard to know when I'm working, when I'm not.
My work brain never turns off.
Really?
Yeah, it gets me in trouble all the time. It does, and it should. It's not fair to people in our lives that we're always half somewhere else or a quarter somewhere else.
Yeah.
And because I'm not punching a clock. I mean, luckily I do have a defined period of time where I am working by every definition of that word.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whatever you think of radio, it's not manual labor, but it's still work. That window closes, though.
I mean, sometimes you got to carry interviews. Boom, puns, jokes, got it.
There you go. Look at that. So, and I'll be honest with you, like 100% honest. If the radio paid me enough where I didn't have to do anything else, I would 100% want that life, because then I could definitely say, okay, it's 2:00, my show, or 3:00, my show's over. I don't have to do anything else. I don't have to write any columns. I don't have to be aware of the world until I'm getting ready for the next show, right? I don't have to be aware of the soccer world. I would prefer that. But
I imagine.
Because I do wonder, like, even if that was the case, and even if I could justify it in terms of my income, I would probably want to make something else. I'd still want my social media, profile to be of a certain kind. Like, I'd still want to make jokes on Twitter about whatever's happening, because that's fun, I guess. I don't know. It's a balance for sure.
That makes sense. And then, but if you did that, as we have, I think all of the MLS front offices walk by us preparing for the draft.
Is that what's happening?
I think that was Bob Bradley just walked by and gave us the icy Bob Bradley stare.
Oh,
so
okay,
there you go. But if you stop doing your show, then how would you get all that MLS money that you get for promoting
the secret
what you promote?
money?
Yeah, of course.
Well, it's not secret anymore. Damn it.
Have you reached the point where that stuff doesn't bother you anymore? Where those kind of, like, those tweets, those accusations don't get to you? Or do they still sort of annoy you when you see people
Well, you're really going to pull back the curtain now. Now, we were talking about this last night a little bit, right? I think, of course, it's always going to bother me on some level. But if I want to be a well-balanced person, and I don't want, again, that stuff to cross over into my personal life and potentially, hurt the people I care about because they're mad that I'm upset about whatever, or only focused, obsessed with somebody who hates me on Twitter, I just block it out. I have to. And I think I've gotten pretty good at it. And I don't have any, like, there's no, it used to be one of those things like, well, you can't shut everybody out. You should listen to differing opinions. And that's true. And I will happily have a conversation or whatever. I won't block somebody just because you disagree with me, but you come at me with names and you accuse me of being corrupt. I mean, hell yeah, I'm not. Why would I bother putting that into my life?
I know we're not breaking new ground here, but it is a weird thing where, like, I think the way Daryl approached it that I've sort of learned from is the idea that, like, if you treat Twitter as, like, you're having a conversation with somebody, you would never begin a conversation with, like, hey, idiot,
right,
you're wrong. It's like, okay, I don't want to talk to this person anymore, and maybe I'll punch them in the face.
Yeah.
So there is that weird inclination to, like, oh yeah, I want to respond and I want to, like, hear everybody's side and hear everybody's opinion, but also if you put that context in the real world, it's not a conversation you're ever going to have.
I just think, and I'm not super kumbaya, okay? I'm not going to pretend to be that. I'm definitely type A in a lot of ways, and I'm wound tight in certain parts of my life and in the way I view things, and I don't think I could do my job if I was laid back. I don't think it would work. I think that would be very hard. But at the same time, the world, in part because of the internet and social media, everybody's in a fighting crouch all the time now.
Yeah.
All the time. It's like I get up in the morning and I check my Twitter or my Instagram or whatever, and I'm already, like, ready.
It's the worst, man, isn't it?
It's terrible.
I've tried to teach myself so many times, don't check Twitter right when you wake up. Because that's like, it's been like 24 hours since the show came out or whatever, and you wake up to the, like, you guys are morons. How could you think this was the case?
Right. Yeah. I'm not good at it either. I try, and I have gotten a look or gotten admonished, like, why do you have to you're laying in bed, you're literally laying in bed, Jason, and you leaned over and you picked up your phone, and the first thing you did was, why did you do that?
Yeah.
And I can't answer that question. I can't answer it well. I can't say, well, because it's really important that I do it now and not 2 hours from now.
And then
there's no reason.
We're going to keep going with this line of reasoning or line of thought because I'm fascinated by it. Because then, like, does your wife have sympathy for you when you're, like, if you're, like, in a bad mood when you wake up, you're, like, eating breakfast? She's like, what's the matter? And you're like, those mean tweets. Is she like, what? I don't even know what that is. Like, go away.
No, and I'm self-aware enough to know that the tough love thing is best for me. So she's definitely like, what are you doing? Why do you care about that? Just stop. Just ignore it. I mean, she's not always dismissive. She can be, she can use supportive language to say, just ignore them. Like, don't let those people affect your life. Don't let those people affect your mood. Don't let those people affect how you interact with me. You get into the rhythms of a relationship. when the other person's hostile to you, and it's not because of something you did.
Yeah.
That can obviously become a big problem. That shouldn't happen, right? Like, if I'm angry because somebody on Twitter called me a name or whatever, I shouldn't take that to my wife. I shouldn't let that affect how I react to her. And that's what she calls me out on. And then
really?
Then
how does she call you out? If she gets like tough love on you, is she like in your face telling you not to, or is she just like, get out of here?
No, she just
live your life, baby.
It's more the eye rolls and just like that does like it's that course correction, right? Like when you do this, and it matters to me, but in the grand scheme of things, what does any of this actually mean, right? Like, I'm not curing cancer, and it's a fact. I love my job, and I'm glad I get to do it, and I'm glad it exists, and I'm glad soccer exists, and all of those things. But if I say this on my show sometimes, and I know it's counterintuitive for somebody who works in soccer media to say this, if the game stopped tomorrow, the world would keep going. Now, some people would say, "Oh, I miss it." Yeah, okay, but the world would continue, and we wouldn't. It's ultimately not as important as we sometimes make it. And that's true about somebody yelling at me on Twitter or somebody, whatever, DMing me about what a hack I am or something like that. Again, usually my response is built on the idea of being more offended that people took that time to do that thing.
Yeah.
Like, why are you wasting your time doing that? Like, there's got to be something else in your life that is more worthwhile than sending me an angry tweet. Like, I don't know. That's just how I feel.
That makes sense to me, and that's genuinely insightful. But now you have me wondering what people around the game would be doing if soccer just like if there was like a global rule, soccer has to stop. Like, what does Pep Guardiola do? Because I feel like it's either soccer coach or dictator.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if there's any line in between.
That's the funny thing about sports, and I certainly the funny thing about soccer. It's difficult to imagine some of these people, and I think I was having this conversation with somebody, and this isn't I'm not trying to paint a broad brush across every player. But there are certainly a lot of players who don't know how to be adult human beings because they've never had to be adult human beings. And if the game stops, or when they retire, they're just, what do I do with my hands? But except they're soccer players, so it's what do I do with my feet kind of thing. I guess. I mean, so I don't know.
Are there, as far as you know, are there like behavioral coaches within teams, like within MLS franchises that like help young guys coming through? Or is it sort of once you're signed, good luck?
I'm not specifically... Like, I don't have specific information about the way I know that the league has done what every league does is, they hold a rookie symposium. They tell you, don't do this, do this. Obviously, social media is a big part of it now. I don't know. I mean, everybody's got a sports psychologist on staff.
This
now,
is true.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'd imagine that kind of falls under that purview on some level. But they're also. We hear the stories all the time about players who go broke the second their career ends because they didn't save any money and now they don't have that big income anymore. Soccer players in the United States, not big incomes, but you know what I'm saying. So I would hope so. I hope they're moving in that direction.
All right. Well,
I mean, I can do this forever. Soccer players have to quit when they're 35 or 40.
Hey, this is Daryl again. I'm interrupting Taylor's conversation with Jason Davis.
Unacceptable.
But Taylor's also interrupting himself to let you know
you got me there.
Today's show is sponsored by Dollar Shave Club, our new sponsor, Dollar Shave Club.
That's right. Dollar Shave Club has everything you need to get ready, no matter what you're getting ready for. They have you covered from head to toes for your hair, for your skin, for your face, you name it, they have it. And it seems like maybe a lot of people at the MLS draft were utilizing Dollar Shave Club services because there was not a lot of facial hair going on.
I mean, I don't know which brand they use, but there were a lot of clean-shaven people.
I mean, I think if everybody there was using it, Dollar Shave Club's doing okay. And if they stick with the Total Soccer Show, they just might end up there.
Well, if they were using Dollar Shave Club, they would be secure in the knowledge that their supplies would be getting delivered to their door when they need it. They would not be running out, and not just of shaving materials, right? There's the shaving, there's the shower set, and there's also the oral care set.
There sure is. It occurs to me that the interview you're currently listening to is with me and Jason Davis. Jason Davis does have facial hair.
He does.
It's two fellas with facial hair.
It's
but
trimmed,
again,
though. It's well trimmed.
It is.
Yeah?
It's well groomed, but also, good teeth. He's got that.
Teeth.
He's got
Top
good skin. He's got that Jason Davis skin. So I feel like maybe he also utilizing Dollar Shave Club services.
We can't say for sure that he does, but I'm pretty sure.
Nah, I'll just say he does.
We are still waiting on our first delivery. To be fair, we only just ordered it.
Yeah.
We're waiting on our first
And also,
delivery.
since the last time we recorded this, we're still in Chicago.
That's true. They don't deliver direct to our hotel. They deliver direct to your door. That's why they send your supplies so you never miss out. See how I segued back into ad copy?
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. And right now, they've got a bunch of starter sets you can try for just $5, like their oral care kit. After that, the Restock box ships regular size products at regular price. So what are you waiting for, listeners?
I'm waiting to get home.
That checks out. You can get your starter set for just $5 right now at dollarshaveclub.com/TSS. That's dollarshaveclub.com/TSS.
All right. I will get us back to Taylor's conversation with Jason Davis.
Yay. I was going to ask you about doing this forever because, so you've been doing various forms of soccer shows for a good long while now.
Yeah.
Have you reached the point, so if you have, how many guests do you have on your show today?
Right now, I think we only have Martino booked, but we're gonna grab super draft picks.
Okay.
So I don't know. It could be 3, 4, 5.
All right, so the perfect example there. So you've got the super draft picks coming in, guys you probably have heard of, read a little bit about, don't know that much about.
Yeah.
Are you sort of winging it when they sit down? Do you have questions in your mind that you definitely want to ask them, or is it sort of so how you feeling, and then you kind of go from there?
Well, so my general philosophy is nobody can know everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I only wanted to book guests where I have a pretty strong knowledge base around whatever it is that they do or they want to talk about, I mean, I would have a pretty good list of guests, but it wouldn't be the whole list. It wouldn't represent all of the aspects of American soccer at the very least, or even make it worldwide. That's insane, right? Why should I not talk to the guy who wrote the book about the Qatari Academy that's trying to bring kids from Africa and turn them into professional soccer players? I don't know a damn thing about that. I certainly don't know specifics. I can read a synopsis of his book, or I can look into some background, and I certainly do that. But there's no way you could call me an expert on that particular topic. My job is to make sure that he can speak or she can speak about that. I'm supposed to facilitate that, right? You can't bring them on and say, talk about your thing for 10 minutes, right? So I'm just always looking for what would the person who's coming to this without any knowledge, what would they want to know?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And did you ever, in the beginning, did you feel an inclination to, if that person's coming on your show, they've got a book, did you feel an inclination to read the whole book before they came on? Or was it always sort of I'll read the synopsis, I'll get the gist, I'll let them explain it to me further?
I mean, I think. Well, somebody sends me a book, I definitely feel guilty, and I feel like I should read the book. That doesn't always happen. Books that's an interesting, specific area. I think when I think about doing interviews, I want to be. I want to have a little bit of knowledge, but maybe not too much, because, and maybe I'm reverse engineering this a bit. I won't deny that's a possibility.
Engineer however you need to, my friend.
Because again, especially if I'm doing a sort of a general interest show, which is what my show is from an American perspective, right? I don't want to ask questions that only insiders or only people who have read the book could possibly understand the
that
answer
makes sense.
to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you want to ask general enough questions that will get you specific pieces of information that then can facilitate the next question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And when do you, are you still, I'm assuming you have those interviews where it's the person comes on, either they're just not up for it for the day, or maybe they're just not that compelling. What do you do there? Are you trying to push them through? Are you asking them rapid fire questions, or do you just sort of be all right, well, thanks for coming in? Have you reached the point where you can just kind of end it?
So I would say that if I was doing a podcast interview, that could get really, really tough, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been in that situation. It's man, are we going to get 10 minutes out of this, or is there a way to?
I'm not kidding. I literally have that anxiety every single time. It could be an amazing interview, but I'll always look and it's we're 8 minutes in. Oh no! How am I going to? I have that momentary panic.
So yeah, and I ran out of questions and we're 8 minutes in. Yeah, well,
that has definitely happened before.
And obviously, I think experience in that situation helps because your brain is looking for a new path, right? I have these 4 topics. These are the big things. I've already hit all of those. That person answered them with 3-word answers every single time. What do I do? And players are notorious for this because they're just, they want to. They're never going to say anything bad about a teammate. They're never going to say anything bad about a coach. You're rarely going to get them to say anything specific. It's platitudes. So you have to, in some situations, especially with players, I will try to develop a quick rapport by mentioning something or asking about something that's not directly related to their job, right? because I think everybody, soccer players especially, or athletes especially, want to be thought of as well-rounded people, right? Mm-hmm. This is why they drop albums and stuff like that, right? They want to be beyond just this thing that they do on the field. And of course, the nature of sports is you're as likely to get screamed at and cursed at than you are to get celebrated, right?
This is true.
So as long as if you treat somebody like a human being rather than just, a video game character who needs to go score goals for my club, they'll give you a little bit more usually. So you say, oh, I saw that video you made, or, what's up with, I don't know. What you just got to look for something like that. And in a radio context, I mean, you're talking about timing. We're really, I don't do anything that's more than 15 minutes.
Really?
I don't have any interviews that are more than 15 minutes because I'm doing live radio. And
we're 22 in now.
The difference, well, it's a podcast, right? That's why it's great.
Yeah.
The difference is...
I'm just saying we made it longer, and I feel good about that.
Okay. The difference is that for you guys, or for a podcaster, somebody's downloading your show. Mm-hmm. Now, you can't guarantee they're going to listen to 100% of it, but more than likely, if they're opting in and downloading the show, they're going to listen to the whole thing, right?
Yep.
That's sort of the nature, that's the difference. Live radio, and I had to learn this because I was a podcaster first, and luckily I had done some sort of live-ish things. There are people who are going to get in their car and have heard nothing I said in the first hour, or they're going to get in the middle of the interview. So, there are things that sound cheesy to me if I'm thinking of them from a podcast perspective, but make sense when you're talking about a radio perspective. And 8 minutes can be a fine radio interview. It's a terrible podcast interview, but it can be a fine radio interview, especially if you're hitting the big pieces of whatever it is that they're there for. And again, I do get drop sweats sometimes. Like, really? Oh my God! Like, it's 6 minutes in, and what are we gonna do here? Like, and the guy, it's like pulling teeth, and you can hear that resistance to actually say anything interesting on the other end. It definitely scares the crap out of me, for sure.
Flipping that around, though, are there ones that you look forward to? Are there players or coaches or execs or even just maybe just other figures in the media who you look forward to doing those interviews with, who are going to give you kind of good energy, good answers every time?
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me to sit down and make a list of, like, good interviews, I could probably do that. I mean, there are obviously there's a lot of soccer media people who are good on the air, but even beyond that, I mean, every now and then you get a player who has.
I'm just waiting for you to say my name, but that's fine. Whatever.
That you're a good interview?
Yes.
Okay, Taylor, you're an excellent.
There we go. That's all I needed. Yeah. All right, interview over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. That's funny though, because I sometimes people go, "Oh, who's your favorite interview?" or "What's the best one you've ever done?" And honestly, maybe it's because I just don't have a very good memory. It's not that I don't remember them somewhere. It's that the quick recall is difficult sometimes.
Yeah. Can I take a shot here?
I remember. Here's the thing, though. I remember sort of the off the beaten path ones. Like I've interviewed. I interviewed pretty much every presidential candidate for the U.S. soccer presidential race last year. I think, except for maybe one or two who were difficult. None of them were like, "Oh God, these are great interviews." Yeah. I mean, they were probably all fine, and it was good that I did them, but they're not going to be remarkable.
Yeah.
I remember. This is pretty random. I remember when I was doing Soccer Morning, Aaron Johansson was making his decision to play for the United States over Iceland. And we weren't, I wasn't doing radio. We didn't have a national presence. We're just a little podcast, video show, whatever. And we booked the president of the Icelandic Football Association. And he came on and railed against Aaron Johansson.
Did he really?
Hated on Aaron Johansson for making that decision. And this is before Iceland had made a Euro and a World Cup, so they were still kind of plucky and hadn't done anything yet. And he was talking about how big bad United States had stolen Aaron Johansson away from Iceland, and this was all about money, and they were promising him that he was going to make all this advertising money and stuff like that. And I thought it was awesome that we got the Icelandic FA president on the air to say all this stuff. I mean,
is that one where you just get out of the way? If he's got like the rant ready to go, or are you just sort of like, all right,
well, actually,
do your thing?
I think my favorite interviews are the ones that have like a little bit of a contentious edge to them, where rather than me asking questions and getting out of the way, and I'm challenging a little bit, and not an aggressive like you're an idiot kind of way, because why would anybody respond if I'm saying those things? But certainly not letting them get off the hook, like not making it easy on them. And I think that's one of them where I definitely asked him some pointed questions about it, about his attitude about Aaron Johansson's choice. because again, at the time, Iceland we didn't know if they'd make a World Cup, so it was. Well, what do you say to Aaron Johansson, who just wants to play in a World Cup?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. There were a couple others. I had David Kahn on the show once, and because he had written a piece about foreign owners in the Premier League, and he was specifically taking shots at American owners at the time. And this is 4 or 5 years ago now. And I thought it was a really good conversation, maybe not interview. Maybe it was more of a debate on some level. And it wasn't that I took shots at him, or there was an actual sense of discussion rather than just, why do you think this? And
so does that mean, like, because I know there are the people out there who are like this. I wish I were a little bit more like this, but are you one who can sort of like toe that line of you're maybe like talking trash a little bit, you're being aggressive a little bit, but you can like recognize the other person when they're enjoying that versus when they're not, and like kind of pull back but still press it? Because I feel like I err on the side of I don't really want to offend, so I'm just going to kind of like be a little bit more friendly. I guess.
think what I do, and sometimes I wonder if this is even the right approach, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes I build an out into the question. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I soften the landing by saying, well, look, I understand why you think this, or I understand your perspective, or it makes sense that, you would say this and this, and we don't know everything that went on internally, but why did you do that?
Yeah.
Why did you make that decision? Why did you not put on a striker in the 73rd when you're down a goal in the playoffs? Whatever it is, whatever the circumstances are. And what it says to I think, and again, this is me reasoning it out. What it says to the person being interviewed is, okay, this guy's not a jerk. Mm-hmm. He's not trying to catch me with my pants down. He's actually he's trying to understand my perspective, but he's looking for reasoning, and I think it helps. I really do. I think I've gotten good answers from people because I've said to them before asking them a pointed question, look, there's a lot that goes into these things. Mm-hmm. We get that, but there's that but separates the I don't know, it's something like that. It's in that area.
But have you had ones where you get a lot of pushback? Have you had one? Because I feel like the thing I was going to jump in with before is I feel like you're saying I don't really have like my specific favorite interviews that come to mind. I feel like there's a decent chance that you have your least favorite interviews, the ones that you think went the most poorly.
Man.
See, maybe not. There we go.
No, again, I think this is just recall because I've talked to and this I don't want this to sound like a brag because there's a lot of people I haven't talked to that I would love to. I just think that when you do so many of them, they blur together.
Yeah.
And then you can't really, especially if you talk to somebody multiple times. Mm-hmm. Like, it's very possible I've done an incredible interview with Kyle Martino and I've done a crap interview with Kyle Martino on me. Like, the questions were bad or whatever, or he wasn't up for it. And, blame isn't really the point, but I'm not going to really in my brain go, oh, that time it was really good, that other time it was really bad. That the Icelandic FA president jumps out because I only talked to him once.
Okay.
And it was on a very specific issue.
Yeah.
And David Kahn is the same thing. And I've probably had those on the radio too, where there was somebody it was a specific issue. I think those are good. Mm-hmm. I think I like those better maybe than the sort of the general, chats.
General chats?
Yeah. Which are a more podcast. No, exactly. And that's great too. And I miss that. I do miss that. But in the radio format, and I'm going.
That makes sense. Yeah, you got to keep it rolling.
I don't know. It's a thing. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a weird thing.
So are you comfortable in this setting then, having just a freewheeling conversation, or do you want structure? Do you want me to reset right now? Joining me right now is Jason Davis. And if you're just tuning in.
I like how you understand the reset. Yeah. It's a little.
We started out on the radio.
It's a little jargonic. Yeah, that's right. You guys did.
Where we couldn't do call to action and had to recognize that we were the emergency broadcast station or whatever. Again, not making the big bucks there.
Man, it's funny how far things have come and changed and all that stuff.
There you go.
After all of that. Yeah,
there we are. I think that's a good place to end. So, sure. Jason Davis, thank you very much. I know you got lots going on today. We got the draft and all that good stuff. I hope all of your interviews are wonderful and freewheeling, but still structured.
Yes.
There we go.
Wish for me that all of the draft picks actually have interesting things to say, or choose to answer questions rather than I'm just trying to do my best out there.
Just super excited. I want to thank my teammates.
Just glad that they're giving me a chance.
Yep.
Yeah.
You could do draft player bingo, couldn't you?
You could definitely do that.
I feel like I might try to draw that up real fast.
Definitely do that.
All right, I'm going to go work on that. Jason, thank you very much.
Thank you,
and
Taylor.
I'm sure we will talk again today.
Bye-bye.